Welcome to Clutching Our Pearls. I'm Marie Hale, and I am proud today to be joined by
Susie Shattuck. Hello.
And we're your hosts, and this is a podcast for a revolution. This little company was forged out of, I don't know, the flaming shit show that was 2020, 2021, and all of the joyous discoveries we have all been blessed to learn during that time. And most of the lesson was, hey, you're disposable. Thanks for playing the corporate game, but why don't you go ahead and get back into the kitchen, get back into a different life than what you're living, because that's where we think you should go. I don't know about you guys, but that sparks a little bit of rebellion in me. And I've never rebelled before, ever. But this one's worth it. The mission of Forward Revolution is to rebuild this world in a powerful, equitable way that puts choice back into the hands of the everyday person so that they can create the kinds of lives that they deserve to live. We could go on, but what I should say first is we're going to use some bad words during this podcast. We are okay with that. If you are not okay with that, get okay fast, because it's going to happen. We have with us a lady of many, many talents today, and I'm proud to introduce you to Donna Shannon. And today we're talking about when rebellious women suit up. Donna is a career coach, a speaker, and a stand-up comic. Oh, and the president of Personal Touch Career Services. And she's been empowering business professionals with not just theories, but practical tools to use in the modern job search since 2004. So she's seen a little ups and downs in the market, is what I'm saying. She is the author of Getting a Job Without Going Crazy and the host of Tattooed Freaks in Business Suits, the podcast. The Personal Touch Career Services is one of Denver's top-rated resume and career coaching services on Google with over 95-star reviews. That is not a small feat.
Yeah, some people kind of like what we do.
It turns out if you make people money, they like you.
Generally speaking, yes.
So you and I connected, it had to be maybe 5 or 6 months ago at this point. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's no time markers on my spectrum anymore. And the conversations that we had about where the job market is and what we see as people are choosing how they want to go back, if they want to go back, what it might possibly look like, and what they're just not being willing to put up with anymore.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Over the past, couple of weeks, there's been like these, jaw-dropping articles in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes magazine and Fast Company about, there's going to be this huge churn of employees because all these people who put up with a whole bunch of crap just to have a job during the pandemic are now going, you know what? Our employers are not treating us well. Now that the things are opening back up, they're not turning around doing things the right way. And I'm not going to put up with this anymore. And here's the thing is this is just now getting to the business leaders. They're just now figuring this out. I'm like, I've known this for 3 months, 4 months. As soon as the economy started to open back up, my phone started to ring because people are like, and especially, females, women identifying in the business area, when we had to put up with so much crap of like, you got to stay home and you got to do all the remote education for your children while you're trying to work by remote on your company. But don't let your kids pop in on your Zoom. Don't let the dogs bark because you better be in your damn suit, at least the business mullet, where you got your suit up top and you got your shorts or your pajamas on the bottom, right? And people are just not willing to put up with it anymore, and they don't have to.
They don't want to pump their milk in a closet anymore? What?
Come on, there were some nice toilet stalls that were turned into pumping rooms.
So relaxing.
Yeah, because everybody loves to prepare their food in the toilet, right? It's so
100%. Well, and I think, back when we first started talking, and you and I were on the same wavelength, that I had a lot of people telling me that once the pandemic was over, what I was doing was not going to work. Nobody was going to care. And I was like, yeah, I think you're wrong. I think that if you give people money and choices, they then have power. And once they figure out that they've got choices again, you're all screwed.
I think even before you get to the money stage, the moment that you realize you have choices, then you take the power for yourself, and then you find the money after that. It's always those first two steps before we get the end results or the rewards, which would be the cash. And I see so many people who are locked in fear because they think, I need X amount of money before I can live my dream. I need X amount of money before I can go back to college. Or I need it. Sure, there's living expenses, but there's also ways to make things happen. And I'm going to go a little bit back into my history and kind of where I came from. So I was a teenage mom. I got married. I got pregnant and married in that order when I was 17. So I finished off my senior year of high school when being pregnant, graduated 6 months early and stuff like that. And then I was going to go to college, and there was an issue with my state tuition rate because I was an emancipated minor because I got married at 17. And rather than fight it out, I was all like, oh, the world wants me to be barefoot and pregnant. So that's what I did. I immediately got pregnant again. And I spent the next 5 years being a stay-at-home mom and ended up having 3 kids and went to school in 1991 and went for a weird degree. I went for music business management, audio engineering, and video production. And then when I got out, here's the thing. My dream job was I wanted to be like a wacky morning DJ on the radio. Mm-hmm. And even when I asked my college counselor, how do you do that? He's like, I have no idea. Okay, like normal world, you like go to college for a communications degree and you work at a school that has a college radio, and then you go and work at like little shit stations all over the country. And then you move yourself up to a major market like Denver is considered a top 40 market, not top 40 music, but it's like one of the top 40 radio markets in the country. At least it was at that time. So then I got a part-time job, and this time I was divorced. And I was working part-time at Office Depot on welfare, on food stamps, on Medicaid for the kids. And I got a second part-time job at the radio station, literally in the mailroom. It put me about $25 a month over in the amount of cash for me to receive welfare. So I didn't quit my jobs. I made it work because I didn't want a career that was based on welfare. I wanted to do something. And so I did all these unusual leaps in the business office, worked my way up, took evening shifts, overnight shifts on the weekend and the AM stations to increase my technical skills. And then I became the morning show producer for KBPI. For those of you who don't know, it's the heavy metal station here in Denver. So that is a very, very, very unusual career path. So when people tell me things like, I can't do this because of the risk, or I can't do this because of the money, I can't do this because I'm a single mom with kids, it's like, bullshit. There's ways to make it happen if you're willing to take creative, intuitive, non-intuitive, different leaps beyond what the hierarchy is telling you is the typical career path.
And so would you say that your career path was part of your rebellion?
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Because what was the world telling? My sister told me I was stupid to take the job at the radio station because she literally told me I should quit all my jobs, have another baby, stay home and suck up as much on welfare as I could. I'm like, that is not the life that I want. Absolutely not. You know, and even trying to get into radio, people are all like, no, this is not how you do it. It's like bullshit. The way I did it is the way to do it, because anything that works when you have the belief, the willingness to work hard, buck the system when they say, oh, these are the rules, you must follow the rules, be creative and be willing to reach out beyond that. So even today, when I work with job seekers, you have so much better tools. When I pulled that off 20 years ago, that was in 1999. And I say things like, you're interested in a receptionist job at your dream company, send your resume to the CEO. And they're like, well, I can't do that. It's like, why not? Why not? There's no rules that say you can't. And even if they are, break them anyways.
Everyone's an expert in what you can't do. Everyone's an expert in what you can't accomplish. Everyone's an expert at what risks are too scary for you to make. Mm-hmm. Well, when that's what everybody's like, you have to rebel to be okay. You have to.
Mm-hmm. And so, Susie, what would you consider like your initial rebellion moment to be, where you realized I don't have to follow somebody else's program?
When I was 15 and I had a crisis of faith in a cult. And I had to engineer leaving it to be okay. I was also an emancipated minor at 17. You don't meet many of us. And that was the, if I'm going to be okay on this planet, I have to leave now. And so my whole flipping identity is forged in rebellion. Because I was honestly created to have my identity forged by submission. And so I think on a much smaller scale or bigger scale, so many of us are living that, where you are created to step in line, fill your place. Which cog are you to which bigger machine? But what about you, Marie? Have you ever rebelled? Like once?
I was thinking about it. Well, when I was maybe a scotch, a month or two past 18, I got a $200 tip selling suits at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and packed up my car and moved to Berwyn, Illinois. Much like you, I knew that if I stayed here much longer, I wasn't going to make it. And I can imagine how horrific that was for my mother. I'm sure I shaved years off of her life. But there's definitely a moment in rebellion where you realize that I'm going to have to give up more of myself than I will ever gain from this situation. And is that okay with me? Is that okay? And what parts am I willing to give up? Because I got to tell you, when I told my dad that I was going to start my first business at 22, he told me I would make a really good union secretary.
Oh.
And I kind of just said, okay, cool. Thanks for the input, but you don't pay my bills and you don't live my life.
Thank you, next.
And yeah. And I think that there's such a moment of beauty in learning that you can rebel. And as a parent, that's a really scary place to be, because you want to teach your kids to question things and have boundaries and push, but then they do it all over you. And that just blows until they're out of your house.
Think for yourself, but not like that. Oh my God.
It's hard. It's hard to have those patience. And, when we look at rebellion, if you look back a generation, if you had a tattoo, you were rebelling. And I can remember my partner, Jim, who passed, he was covered in tattoos. And you would never know it because he kept his shirt line and his cuffs as the limits of where he was. Mm-hmm. And it was so interesting to me, because here was this gentleman that looked like he was the most buttoned up person on earth, always had it together. You would have never dreamed that he was completely inked.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And he used to let his friend practice tattooing on him. Mm-hmm. That's not a good idea, by the way. And so, Donna, when we look at the fact that there's been such a normalization to certain degrees of body modification and the way people dress and how we present ourselves, how has that changed either in the workplace or when you're trying to get into a job and move up?
So there are some different norms based on kind of where you are in the country, and there are some different norms depending on industry. So I'm here in Colorado. For those of you who don't know, Colorado is considered one of the more heavily inked states. So seeing a lot of tattoos is not all that unusual. You start going like farther back east and like kind of the New York, New Jersey's, Connecticut areas, it's not going to be as common. One way I like to refer to it as pantyhose standard. So the further west you go, the more optional the pantyhose become, right? So I don't think it's been normal for most business women, unless you're like really heavy into like financial services or very conservative type situations like that, law, things like this, like you're a lawyer presenting in court, the pantyhose become less and less important. And, also the further west you go in Denver, pantyhose not a thing. We have like our cowboy business couture, which is even guys are wearing jeans, button-up shirt, jacket, no tie, and things like that. But you would never wear that to a business meeting or to even a job interview if you were in New York. So there is some of that. Now, the other thing, too, is the generational shifts that we see with tattoos. Us Gen Xers sometimes make fun of millennials. Sorry. But when we started getting all of our tattoos in the 90s and stuff, we had that standard of we're rebelling, but we also want to have jobs sometime down the line. And so that we keep it undercover, right? It's underneath all the sleeves. I'm extremely heavily tattooed. Most people don't know that. But millennials, when they started getting tattoos, they would start, boom, on the neck immediately, or on the lower arm or on the hands. And I'm sorry, tattoo artists sometimes make fun of people too, because they'll like come in to get their ink and they look at somebody and they're like, damn, this dude's already covered. He's got his neck, hands down, takes his shirt off. And they're like, what? So anyway, tattoo artists sometimes make fun of people too. Okay.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding.
That's hilarious. I figured like I told my nephew, one of the oldest ones, he's 12 and he's obsessed with getting a tattoo. And I'm like, oh, if you remain untattooed until you were 18, I will buy you the tattoo of your choice from the neck down for your 18th birthday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, but I want my face. I'm like, no, I can't.
You don't start with your face. And most tattoo artists are, if they're worth their salt and not just somebody who's just going to do whatever and take your money, they won't do the face until you're already heavily tattooed. I could walk in and I could get my face done. There's no artist who's going to question that because I've got large pieces all over. I've got like 9 very sizable tattoos. But really? This one here, this is my most expansive growth one so far. I had this one done in October of 2020. And it's a cover up actually. Oh, look, I want to go another button down so you can really see it. So,
can you describe it? Because there's also audio listeners.
Oh, sure. So what this is, the original tattoo is a dragon that was right under my heart, just a little one, right? It's about over 30 years old. So now it's all bleeded out. Nobody could tell what it is. It's like, is that a unicorn or a camel or what is that, right? So it's time to get it redone. So what it is now is a very traditional dragon head and his claws, and it's a full shoulder cap. So in the Japanese tradition, it does have the black bars that go, and it goes all the way to the center of my breastbone. So this is the most visible tattoo that I have. It goes all the way up past my collarbone. And, I debated on whether I was going to do that because I'm a professional speaker. I'm on stage all the time. And you know what? The symbolism of the original tattoo was, if I'm going to follow my heart in everything that I do, I need a protector over it. So this tattoo means the same thing, but it's also throwing off the shackles of, you know what? I'm all in all the time. And I don't mind people seeing it for who I am while I'm on stage, while I'm on the air, while I'm telling jokes or whatever the case may be. What you see is what you get. Now, that being said, I'm also able to afford really good artists. So it's not a hack and scratch either. It's an investment piece.
So I think one of the interesting things that I would love to kind of dissect a little bit is how differently it's viewed when women rebel in whatever way it may be. Susie had to rebel at one point and wear pants while she was doing IT work and crawling under desks.
Back when I was a baby IT field technician in the mid 90s, because of the corporate dress code, I had to be pulling wire and messing around with servers in pantyhose and heels. Ugh. So my big act of rebellion was ready. Pants.
Scandalous.
I know.
I'm just saying you could have done a nice culotte. All right.
I wasn't ready to commit.
I want to talk about the kind of the double standard of when women rebel versus when men rebel, because men are, and we can say it is wrapped up in a little toxic masculinity, but they're meant to be brave and they're meant to go fearlessly.
Mavericks.
And in my personal journey, I always noticed that one, I was born without fear. I'm not sure where that mechanism was supposed to be in my body, but it just never dawned on me. What additional struggles are we up against as women who show up as we are?
I think there's like even the double standard in how people are described, right? A man who stands up for their, rights or their position or their ideas is considered assertive, forward thinking, and a strong leader. A woman who does that is a bitch who is nagging people and yeah, exactly.
Bossy, my favorite word, bossy.
Mm-hmm. Bossy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was called,
you're a damn boss. It's different.
I was called opinionated, and I didn't realize this was not a compliment until I was 26. Yeah. But it's what I see when I look back is that in my moments of rebellion, of my I'm out of fucks. I don't care anymore. I can't keep doing the same thing and getting the same result, or I can't keep playing your role that you've set up for me. That's when I had the greatest, because you can't grow if you're going to stay in the same place. How do we look at rebellion as a tool for moving our careers forward?
Yes.
I think, and sometimes when I'm working with people is I look at what's going to be the long-term goal. Where do you really, really want to be? And then let's work the steps backwards and also put into play the 90-degree pivots that are like, wouldn't expect this from this career turn, right? So that's exactly what I did with the radio station. I didn't think of, oh my God, what can I do to feed my kids? That was part of it, because that was always part of the equation, right? And it was, where's my long-term goal? Want to be on the air with the morning show. Okay, how am I going to get there? Let's start in the mailroom. There's that old cliche, and I actually made it work, right? And I was getting promoted along the way in the business office. That's actually where I started to learn HR and recruitment, as well as some accounting, but I'm very bad at accounting, just to let you know. I'll own that. And it's only gotten worse the further away I get from it, to tell you the truth. But I mean, that in and of itself is kind of like an act of rebellion. Because how many times have you heard the old saying that 80% of jobs are found through networking? Okay, 80% of careers that rely on networking are careers that, quote, just happen. Oh, you took this job because you had a friend over here, or you had this job because, your favorite boss went over there, but it's not by design. So that's where people are like, yeah, I may be getting great money, or maybe I'm only getting okay money. Maybe I'm not even using my degree. Maybe I don't have a degree at all. What do I really want to do? I don't know. I never thought about it, because I was just leapfrogging on these things that appear to me rather than doing a career by design. Does that make sense?
It does. And what it brings up for me is that we start looking at our children in junior high and saying, what do you want to be? What do you want to go to school for? What do you want to make one of the biggest investments of your life in?
Mm-hmm.
So by the time you get to 18 and you're in college, you're just tinkering down a path that sounded okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it befuddles me. It absolutely befuddles me that we put that responsibility on people that don't have even fully formed brains at that point to say, pick your lane. This is where you live from now on. Mm-hmm. Or get that fine arts degree. We'll see what happens. Right.
And if you turn off My Little Pony, we need to talk about your career path.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting as well that, we're putting our children in this position right when they're in the midst of what should be their rebellious years. Right here, you don't really know yourself. You've got to get out there and rebel against some stuff. I try to give my daughter a lot of things to rebel against. Hopefully she picks the bad ones. But there's almost a sense that I'm getting that you can use rebellion to find yourself. But you can't do that unless you're willing to take chances. So what do we say to those that are not organically rebellious?
I think it's a matter of redefining it in our own minds and in our own reflections. One of the things that kind of helped me out, and I've put some thought into this too, is figure out what are my desires and how are they different from other people in my life. And I will admit it, I'm a daddy's girl. I love my dad, all the rest of this stuff too. But for him to think of me wanting to be in radio was shocking and stupid. It didn't make sense to him. My dad, by the way, is a PhD in mechanical engineering. He's done a lot of stuff for NASA, right? I don't even know when people mansplain to me anymore because I've been engineered-splained my entire life. I don't understand why people have issues with that. I've gone with toe-to-toe with that my entire life, right? And then there was a few years ago, we were talking and my dad was like going into all his sad regrets things. And he's like, yeah, I was always sad that, when you got pregnant and you got married and because I thought you were going to go to CU Boulder and study Shakespeare and go to New York and be a Shakespearean actor. And I'm like, what? Where did that come from? My dad, money driven, stability, 401ks, benefits, all the rest of this shit, wanted me to go be not a Broadway actor where money is, a Shakespearean actor. It's like, what?
Well, and maybe that was his rebellion. He created stability for you so that you could go and do something completely different.
Yeah.
How did that happen? He's like, I'm risk adverse, but that girl can nail an iambic pentameter. Let's go.
Because we used to watch Shakespearean plays together when I was like in school and stuff. So it's like, great that you had that vision and dream, but we never talked about that one.
Should have come up.
I think, when we look at the position where we're in, where we do get to be the architects and engineers of our lives. And we've also got other humans that we bring along on that ride, whether they want to or not. Because I can tell you, Lily's been in a boardroom since she was 2 weeks old. And there's been a lot of times she was just tired of my ass. But how bringing that into the family and giving kids a tool to almost, and this sounds way too analytical for the word rebellion to be wrapped around, but to almost construct their rebellions. I almost am getting this feeling of like giving your kid what's the ending story, right? Mm-hmm. Here's some outcomes. What is the craziest thing you can think of to do to get to each point? And what are the consequences?
Yeah. And that's kind of very true with the way I raised my kids. And I would say, on this point, I was probably a successful 1 out of 3, sort of 2 out of 3. And well, that's not true. Number 3 out of 3, the firstborn, he does exactly what he wants, but he makes no money. So, but he gets to do everything he wants to do. That's, He just has different standards, money and jobs and things like that are not necessarily important to him. But he's in school right now and he's doing that's going well. My daughter, their goal was to become a professional piercer, and they are doing that. And I'm actually quite proud of them. And my youngest son, he was the one who's all about the stability, and he's working a job that's just, a job, but his big goal is he wants to own a house. So he's saved up like a lot of money and he's working to that goal. And he's kind of like my husband. My husband is not in a passion job for him whatsoever, but he's taken a look at his life and he goes, okay, I've decided to put up with this job, not career, job, because he enjoys his house and he enjoys his toys. Literally, we're toy collectors. So we have like rare mint in the box toys, literal toys. And, the other things that we get to do. And he's okay with that because that's the choice that he's made. And sometimes I think that's important to recognize too. We push people a lot to go for that dream career, go be whatever you want to be. But sometimes maybe the choices outside of the career are what's most important for that person. The stay-at-home mom who has given a lot of pride and pleasure into raising their kids. That deserves to be honored. And honestly, that could be a form of rebellion too, in this world where we're saying women need to work full time, do all the cleaning, do all the cooking, care for all the kids, do all the Cub Scouts and all the rest of the shit. That may not be what you want. You need to define it for yourself, regardless of what other people are telling you.
If we go through all of this to remove other women's choices, we're failing. Like, we can't say that given what's happened, your choice to raise good humans is invalid. We should just quit. Honestly, because we need, it's like, that is also power. That is also dignity and important,
Mm-hmm. And I think, just to kind of bring it back to the power of rebellion and what it can mean in your life. Rebellion teaches you who you are. Mm-hmm. If you don't step outside and take chances, you're never going to know if those were arms or wings. Mm-hmm. And we're in a beautifully unique time right now where people have had an opportunity to think, holy crap, we actually put down the phone and turned off the binge and we thought about life being different. And Donna, I know that you've been shepherding people through this process for many years and doing it from a place of authenticity and teaching people how to show up with the end in mind so that they can be who they need to be today to get to tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And many of us are looking at the world opening up and saying, okay, tomorrow's here. And I agree. But make tomorrow wildly different. Make tomorrow your bitch. Yeah. Because if you don't, nobody's going to do it for you. And the results will be yours to enjoy. So I would encourage all of you to follow Donna on Twitter. She's at DL Shannon. On Instagram, she's at Personal Touch Career. Check out her website, personaltouchcareersurfaces.com. And go to the contact section. Donna, didn't you say you were going to give something to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we love to do is give people a free consultation and really describe to them, we'll do a resume review. We'll kind of talk about their career plans, how their job search has been going, and really kind of dive deep into what is working and what is not. So just come to the contact page on my website. It's ridiculously long, so Google it if you need to. personaltouchcareerservices.com. Again, that's personaltouchcareerservices.com. And you can sign up directly on my website. You can talk to me or to one of my other career coaches, Dia Klein or Amy Dreyer. They do a great job as well. Definitely follow me on LinkedIn. So it's Donna Shannon on LinkedIn. The middle name is Breck Eisen. So there's probably more than one Donna Shannon out there too. But I guarantee you there's no other Donna Shannons out there who are a career coach and a stand-up comic at the same time.
And also follow her podcast, Tattooed Freaks in Business Suits. Trust me, it's an amazing listen.
You were on that, right?
I think I was.
I think you were too.
All right, Susie, do you want to close us out?
Yeah. I want to thank you, Donna. I loved our time together and really connected with what you said. I want to encourage everybody to join us on the member portal that we have. Go to forwardrevolution.com, fwdrevolution.com, and click on our portal, and you will find who we are and what we're doing. And we are collecting mid-level to high-level marketing and sales people, and we are re-engineering how they show up in the workplace. So check us out.
And I also want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Troy Tech and Safety Chicks. They have been great partners for us. I want to say to the audience that this rebellion is yours. If you walk out of what we've just been through and try to put things together exactly the way that they were, you have missed the blessing. Be wild, tear it down, paint it pink, make yourself happy, and then find a way for life to work around your joy. Thank you for listening. This is Clutching Our Pearls, signing off.